All right, so you've picked your project topic. You've done quite a bit of background research. Now comes the big question, what are you going to do with all this? What is your actual capstone project going to look like? Think of this like picking a game mode. You're going to pick different styles of a particular project, each with its own strengths and weaknesses that suits you individually. So some people prefer simulation games, some people prefer action games. You get to pick something that suits you just like that in here. I'm going to walk you through 8 possible approaches with some real examples so we can figure out exactly what would be best for you and you alone. We'll start with the most common of them, that would be the experiment. The experiment is simply just a classic lab science testable hypothesis, data collection, control your variables, yada yada. We're going to see where the numbers take you. And you can use model organisms, or if we aren't harming the humans, you can use human test subjects. This is great for students who like hands on work and measurable results with a definitive conclusion that they can take. Some examples, you could test blue light and see how it affects heart rate variability. You can test sugar-free versus regular gum for saliva pH. You can test disinfectants on bacteria, stuff like that. If you like charts, pipettes, clear answers, heart rate monitors, etc., this is going to be your lane. The next one would be the biomedical invention, and that would be where you are the engineer, where you design and prototype a device, app, or physical tool to help solve a biomedical problem. You'll go through the design process, and if we can, we're going to test your product in different ways. Maybe we won't be able to put it inside of someone or attach it to someone more or less, but there are things we can invent that people can use to solve problems. Examples being, what if you could develop an adaptive toothbrush for patients with arthritis to have less pain when they're brushing their teeth? Or maybe you develop an application for tracking migraine symptoms for teenagers. This is perfect for students who love problem solving and want to build something that people could actually use in the long run. The third category I have for you is called systematic reviews or meta analyses. This one is more about brains than beakers. What you do is you dig into existing research, much like you've done for your background, and find patterns across all the existing research. You'll have to add more research than your average bear and maybe go into case studies and maybe get your own surveys involved to see exactly how we can augment the data that's already in place. So instead of doing your own experiment, you're going to be synthesizing the results of many others. Some examples of this would be which concussion rehabilitation technique would work best, what is the safest treatment for pediatric epilepsy. Basically, if you enjoy reading scientific articles and you just want to read, and write, and you are one of those people that can spot patterns, or you have a claim that you'd like to make based on those patterns, this could be your thing. Number 4 would be the protocol or system redesign. Sometimes the problem isn't the science, it's how the healthcare is delivered. So in this project approach, you redesign a process to make it faster, make it safer, more patient friendly. Some examples of this could be reducing anxiety for pediatric patients by changing how room flow is created for a telehealth check in system, and possibly adjusting that to make it more friendly for pediatric patients. You could design a system to reduce medication errors in nursing homes. If you are one of those people that looks into the efficiency of things and want to increase user experiences in system thinking, this would be a great section for you. I haven't had many of these kinds of projects, but there's definitely something here. Another example you could use would be a health event or outreach campaign. This approach would take your knowledge to the public. You could plan the event, an awareness campaign, or educational program that targets a specific health issue, such as a middle school campaign on the risk for vaping, or a community event teaching stroke symptom recognition, or even just a TikTok campaign busting vaccine myths. If you like communication, advocacy, making an immediate impact, I haven't had many of these projects, but this one could be for you as well. Number six is a common one that people want to experience but don't really get the ball rolling on it, job shadowing with some reflection based on it. Here you spend time with a professional in the biomedical field, and typically that would be where things stop. But instead, I want you to take that one step further, observing what they do and creating something based on what you learn. For example, you could shadow a speech language pathologist and then make an infographic about the different tools so that they could pass it out to their future clients. You could observe a surgical nurse and propose a new patient handoff checklist. If you're interested in exploring careers, you want to find some real world insight. Yes, you'll have to set up the job shadowing on your own. I don't have connections. I am a teacher, not a healthcare professional. But if this is something you want to experience, we can get you out of the classroom and into clinics to do a little bit of information finding so you can create something based on the job shadowing. Couple more categories here. You could have some kind of policy or ethics proposal because we know that some biomedical issues need change at the policy or ethical level. This would be great for people that are interested in government or public health of some kind. It would involve researching some hot button issue, such as AI and diagnostics or uh, medical mistakes in clinics, and then proposing some new policy, guideline, or ethical standard to improve on those things. Like I said, this could include guidelines in AI used for diagnosis, policy requiring hospitals to publish patient satisfaction data so that you know exactly how accurate or how good their doctors actually are and not just going off of Google for your recommendations, and maybe even debating embryo gene editing for disease and having policy prevention awareness campaigns. Again, if you like law, ethics, or debate, this one could be your zone here. Last one I have is kind of a catch all here. This one's for the artists, the designers, and the storytellers. You could use some kind of visual or creative media to explain complex biomedical ideas to patients or the public. A good example of this might be a children's book explaining asthma triggers or a redesigned hospital sign system for better accessibility. I even had one student create a DIY guide for how someone could create their own insulin using bacterial transformation at home and had all the information that was needed to jumpstart your own insulin production. If you want to blend science with creativity, this is kind of the catch all version here. So there you have it, 8 different ways to approach your capstone. You can even combine some of these approaches. You can invent a tool and test it, shadow a professional, and redesign it with their workflow, or even test it on their patients with their approval, or at least get their feedback on it. You could create some kind of systematic review and turn it into a public health care campaign. Your approach is entirely your choice. The best choice is one that matches your skills, your interests, the kind of impact you want to make. Please involve me in these thoughts, involve me in these talks, involve me so that I can help guide you to something that you want to do for the rest of this year, because it is a great time if you have a project you love. That's it for me. I'll see you next time.